Hey, what's up? This is Andy Chamber here. I wanted to take the opportunity to have a little bit of a look back into some of the best things that I've ever bought. And this isn't so much just about identifying what those are or like flexing random things, but instead identifying what is it about those pickups that has made them work so well for me that I now feel like that was a really great purchase or I got a bit of a steal or whatever. So we're going to do exactly that, a variety of things that I've picked up over the last 4 or 5 years, and over that time I've either got a massive amount of use out of or they've helped me learn something about myself. Either way, they're all things that I think are pretty cool, so let's go check some out. First one is probably going to come as no surprise to anyone. It's the Nike Lab ACG Alpine jacket. I've had this for probably 4 years now, something like that, and worn it an absolutely massive amount since then. It's also one of the first pieces of kind of proper tech wear, I suppose, that I ever bought. And even now, and I feel like my style has changed in general a lot since then, I still find myself really liking both the looks of this jacket and the various performance features that it has to offer. I also think as well, because of the way it looks and because of all those cool features and all that sort of thing, and being just a shell, I do find it still pretty wearable in a lot of situations. So owning this, it feels pretty easy to just chuck on, honestly. It also represents a lot of the reasons that I started wanting to get into techwear, and one of the reasons why I still like it now. It's got those cool futuristic looks, it's got performance elements, and it is still very distinctive with that cool off-center branding. A lot of people are probably going to recognize this jacket, and there is, there's a little bit of appeal to that, I think. At the time, this was the most expensive thing I'd ever bought by a pretty significant margin, so I felt like I was taking a really big risk buying this in case I didn't like it, but I really got on with it well, and I feel like it really helped define my style at that time, to be honest, way back in 2016, early 2017. If it wasn't for the Alpine jacket, I probably wouldn't dress the way that I do now, and I probably wouldn't be making fashion content at all, to be honest. So in that sense, I do feel like me and this jacket kind of have a bit of a symbiotic relationship, but it's certainly now a piece that I am very familiar with. But I've never really done a full in-depth review of it, so if that is something that you guys would be interested to see, my kind of long-term view on a jacket like that, then yeah, let me know, and that's definitely something that I can think about doing. That's the first one, and it's definitely a big one. And the next, I'm technically cheating because it's 3 different products, that being the Havanna Labs Fidlock belt, the Riot Division Fidlock belt, and the Alpha Motif Fidlock belt. These belts are all fairly similar, and I've worn all of them pretty extensively, so I didn't want to just arbitrarily pick out one of them. But the Fidlock V buckle is really the star of the show here. Although the Cobra buckle is, it's a V techwear buckle, it's a little bit more recognizable, of course, partly because of brands like Elite's making very heavy use of it. Still very distinctive, and I'd argue more futuristic looking than the Cobra buckle is. I also find it easier to do up and undo, what with that fun little magnetic mechanism. The 3 do have some slight variations which are worth considering one over the other for various reasons. So the Havanna Labs one is the most stripped back of the 3. It has this quite thin, very pliable, very comfortable feeling, but still densely woven nylon. And it has a nice little clip on one side as well, so it's very easy to tuck the excess bit of belt away, so it's not dangling around anywhere. So that makes it good for cleaner or smarter looks. The Alpha Motif version is kind of the opposite of that, in that it has a nice big metal clip at the end of the excess belt length. So this is designed to be hanging down, and then you can clip it back onto the belt loop, so you've got this loop of excess material. You've also got an external little key holder as well, which is also magnetic, so you can pull that on and off. It's much more tactical looking, it's much more in your face, and that's definitely the option if you are into that kind of tactical, dangly strap and extra things look, without having to resort to just tying things around your arms and legs for fun. And then the Riot Division one kind of sits in between those 2 opposites. It's got enough length that you can have a little dangly bit going on with the little Riot Division branding on there, but it's got this like doubled up webbing, so it still feels pretty secure and pretty sturdy. It's got a plastic D-ring on one side as well, so if you wanted to, you could still use this for clipping keys to, etc. Although it's a little bit less sophisticated than the Alpha Motif version. Having your trousers fall down obviously is not very technical, making this pretty much an essential accessory. And as I say, if you're into the more tactical looks, the more maximalist style, then you can have things dangling down and play play a bit more with those aesthetics if you choose. I keep these threaded around whatever pants I happen to be wearing a lot at the moment, so they all get a lot of use and they just fit super effortlessly into my wardrobe. A lot of Valence fans will probably tell you that the frame tee is not their best product. It's not as durable as quite a lot of other Valence stuff. Being a t-shirt, there's only so much it can do aesthetically when it is quite plain, and it is just fairly expensive at retail for what it provides. However, my two frame tees were the first Valence things that I've bought, and I've got a lot of use out of them since then, and I've really enjoyed owning them. They're extremely comfortable, being made of merino, they're flattering, the colours I think are really, really nice, and they just fit super easily into my wardrobe. I think a lot of Valence stuff can end up pigeonholing you into that all Valence all the time kind of direction, but the frame tees, obviously just being t-shirts, you're free to jazz those up and do things a little bit differently however you like, and there's simply loads of ways to wear these. The slim cut I think looks pretty good on me, and it's an overall pretty futuristic style, which of course is very appropriate for the other kinds of things I find myself wearing most of the time. I'm equally happy wearing these alone in something a bit more summer appropriate, underneath something else so you can kind of see them underneath and you can see the colour and the fit and stuff, or just in a more winter ready outfit where they're totally layered up and you can't see them at all because they just feel nice and comfy next to skin. You can pretty much do whatever you want with them, I find. I can't deny these are pretty expensive at retail, but if you look around end of season, you may find these for 30 to 50% off, at which point I think it's definitely worth having a go with. But I also wouldn't say that everyone should go out and buy these exact t-shirts right now because I like them so much. That's kind of not the point of this video, but I just think it's great to have something that you can like fall back and rely on, like a fit or a cut that works really nicely for you, something that's pretty plain, so wearable in loads of different situations, and there's loads of different brands that can cater to that, and there's loads of different things that you might like that might suit you really well. An effortless go-to, I suppose, is something that's really valuable. I mean, like this APC t-shirt, for example, I've worn this loads since I bought it like 5 years ago. It's not really the kind of thing that I would normally talk about on this channel. It's not really very technical or sort of special in any way, apart from this pocket is leather for whatever reason. But I think it looks good on me, it fits well, and just being plain white, obviously, it's just so easy to wear. So I don't mind spending a little bit more to get something that's like that I know that I'm just going to wear again and again and again. I couldn't have a list like this without including at least one pair of shoes, and there were definitely a few contenders here. You've got the Vapormax utility, which has shown up in so many videos and Instagram pictures by now. That is maybe an obvious choice. There's the Acronym Prestos as well, because of how iconic they are and how much they kind of represent tech wear, I suppose. But no, for me, the best one has to be the Nike Undercover Daybreak. And I say that because they really epitomize a lot of what I like in a piece of clothing. I find them very, very easy to wear, they fit in very well with my wardrobe, and I find them pretty easy to style. They feel like I can just chuck them on and do whatever with this shoe. They're very comfortable as well. I certainly have no issues there, being based on the Tailwind, forgot the name for a sec. And I like how they strike that balance between a normal looking classic shoe, but with that very obvious change to that to update it to make it look more futuristic and very angular and kind of aggressive and yeah, all of that stuff. That's just really cool to me. I also kind of like that they went under the radar a bit as releases go. They were very much overshadowed by things like the Nike Sacai collab, which came out at a similar time, but it gives it a bit of a if you know type appeal, and I suppose quite a lot of my wardrobe fits into that category. So I like it for that reason as well. These were limited on release when they came out about a year ago, but as I say, they were never that hyped, so probably still possible to pick up at a not crazy premium. But it's kind of a similar thing to with the t-shirts, I suppose. These, I think, represent me. They suit my style and what I like in a shoe really well, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the Undercover Daybreak is the best techwear shoe ever and you should go out and buy them immediately, because everyone has kind of different priorities, different things that they really like. You might like a bigger, chunkier shoe, for example, rather than the relatively slim Tailwind that it's based on. You might like something that's got really nice bright colors that really helps you stand out. You know what I'm saying. Your favorite shoe doesn't have to be the most iconic or the most expensive one. It just has to be one that you really like and you get a lot of wear out of. But I'll still never forget that these ripped open the cuff of my P23, so they are sharp at the back and they are out for blood. Fabric, same thing. A lot of things here are real staple pieces, things that have value to me based on their versatility, that I can just wear them with pretty much anything. But not the case with the Nike Lab ACG Deploy jacket, which strangely I still think is one of my best pickups. When I initially saw this release, I was kind of in two minds about it. I liked the fact that Nike Lab were doing something different, what with these colors, but at the same time, so different to the all black stuff that I was used to. It wasn't really something that I was super interested in picking up. But part of the reason why I think this was such a good pickup for me was because of the price. So this retailed at like £500, and at that kind of level, you are competing with a lot of different jackets around that price range. And does the Nike Lab ACG Deploy jacket, in an objective sense, kind of live up to those? Probably not, really. But when it's 50% off, it feels like much less of a gamble buying something a little bit more experimental like this. And you can certainly forgive some of those kind of weird idiosyncrasies or things that are a little bit unusual, like that strange fit that isn't 100% flattering on all people, or like that deployable pocket just being an odd piece of functionality kind of folding out of a zip like that. But being so eye-catching, this has got more compliments out there in the real world than I think anything else that I own. And it still does have quite a few decent bits of performance and functionality. Things like a jacket sling, for example, which it's not that common to find in a sub £250 jacket. So I guess the reason why I consider this so successful is because it was a bit of an experiment, it was a bit of a gamble, to be honest, but it was one that, in this case, paid off. And it doesn't always, there's plenty of times that I've got that wrong. I guess the key to making these gambles less risky is by taking some things that you like. So it's a piece of outerwear, it's got lots of features, it's very kind of practical in a lot of ways, which are all things that are very common in lots of my jackets, but then taking that one thing and massively changing it, like the color, for example. And then you still have a lot to like about the jacket, and then that you're only gambling on one thing, basically, as opposed to everything. Maybe that's a bit of a strategy, something to pay attention to when you're sales shopping in future. And I'm actually at 5 already, but I'm going to do one more because I haven't really talked about mid-layers or jumpers or anything. So one thing from that area that I think has been a really good pickup for me is the Cavent document sweater. I bought this a couple of years ago now, and I really like the graphic on it, even though graphic stuff is not normally something that I wear. But yeah, that kind of retro futuristic, the technology based aspect, it's a bit tongue in cheek as well. All of those things appeal to me. And the overall colors as well, it's really nice and bright with that nice kind of sharp contrast. It's both very eye catching, but very easy to wear. So I feel like when I'm wearing this, it's very effortless. I'm not really trying too hard, but at the same time, the overall outfit never really ends up looking super boring because you've always got this nice graphic to look at. And Cavent as well is exactly the kind of streetwear brand that fits in perfectly with my wardrobe. So if I were to buy graphic-based pieces, then Cavent is probably one that I would look at above pretty much everything else, alongside, I guess, Stone Island do some graphic things, Gorilla Group as well. Those are really the top 3, I suppose. The only downside, and I think something that I've mentioned before, is the fit of this jumper is kind of wide and it's kind of short. So it's not as flattering as other cuts would be on me. So being a relatively tall person, I wouldn't want a wardrobe full of these, but I don't mind it for the contrast and I still really enjoy owning it. And if anything, owning something with this unusual cut was instrumental in helping me recognize what kinds of things do look flattering and what kinds of cuts I should be focusing on. For a future purchase, I'd definitely be interested in getting a Cavent zip up, because I think that could look quite nice in the same sort of way as a bomber jacket, like having that nice cropped fit, but you can still have it undone. So it's nice to look back at some of the things that I feel I actually got right for a change. And I think this kind of introspection can help inform those future purchasing decisions, both in terms of what kinds of clothing do I like, what do I keep gravitating towards, and what are the reasons that I keep going towards those specific things. Because I think if you're picking out those reasons, then you can help identify things that will fit your style and you'll end up getting a lot of enjoyment and a lot of wear out of, but don't just mean that you'll end up buying the same thing over and over again, because then you're probably going to end up getting bored. Yeah, being conscious of those little elements in those things that you wear a lot and then applying that to new things that you maybe want to buy. Then that's probably the key to buying interesting things that you actually like and not 100 pairs of black pants over and over again. I would never do that. All of those things I think represent really good purchases for me. There are of course more, but I wanted to focus on just the top ones. But I do want to know, because that's quite enough of me, if you've got any recommendations of things that you know, maybe they're totally different to any of the things that I've talked about here, but things that you've purchased. Maybe they're even things that you weren't really sure about when you initially bought them, but now they're like, yes, they're an absolute staple, really happy I bought them. Because in this community, I think it's so important to have those personal recommendations of things that people have genuine experience with and they get on really well with, because it's not only helpful for me, because I'm always out here buying new stuff, but of course anyone else that comes and checks out and reads through the comments and stuff like that, super valuable for them as well. So yeah, I would really appreciate it if you've got any cool thoughts, you want to share some nice pickups that you've got in the past. And yeah, that is everything from me. So as always, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please do give it a like because it's much appreciated. And I will catch you next week with another video. Thank you so much for the support on last week's video. I realized it was a little bit different to what I normally do. I felt like mixing things up a little bit. I feel like normal fashion content at the moment definitely needs kind of mixing up a bit. So yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it if you checked that one out. So shout out to Gilla Guy, who finally understands what techwear is all about. And shout out to Cybersaurus as well. I really appreciated your nice comment, and that's pretty much exactly the reason that I made that video. So I'm really glad that you felt that way. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of the video. If you want to catch some more, there's going to be links going up at the top. And if you haven't subscribed yet, then I don't know what you're playing at, but you should definitely give it a go because we've got a whole bunch more techwear videos and other fashiony stuff coming up. Will I eat more cereal out of my shoes? I guess you'll have to subscribe and find out.